Hey everyone, it's Veroosh. Welcome to my channel. I'm excited to be here with you guys today to take a look at the astrology of this week and give you an overview of some important things to know. I'm going to do an all sign, which means I'll take a look at every single sign and read some tarot cards for you guys in a minute. But first, let's go over the astrology. And I'm really happy to say that the critical time has just ended in terms of the astrology that's been sort of crazy and sort of very dangerous, as we've seen in the world and maybe in your own personal lives. I've been reflecting on how to articulate everything that's going on, and one of the things is that I feel today, I feel as though I've been hunched over with a million different people, just screaming in my ears. Nothing bad necessarily happened, but that was the energy. And now I feel as it was like a cluster fire of energy. And now I feel that the moon has just entered Gemini, and it's been the final stage in releasing everything we've been talking about for the last 2 weeks. So expect to have some level of decompression, some level of decreased stress, and hopefully that the real intensity under which we were for the last little while is going to decrease somewhat. Now, I'm not promising you that everything's going to be rosy and beautiful. There's some other transits that I want to talk about that I'll show you later to be aware of. But in terms of this intense Capricorn energy, it's just ended today. So very happy to tell you this. So before I explain the astrology, there's about 4 things to say. I wanted to point out that members got their videos and they're in the description. I did 4 videos for members for every single element, but it's a full-length video for each one. So we did those live. And if you want to watch them, they're in the description now if you're a member. So thanks for that. I also did an extended for the new moon that was quite good. So you guys might want to check that out as well. Okay. And then also, if you want a reading with me, the site's not up still. Use the direct link to get a reading. And yep, I'll be following up with you with that. Just make sure to read the entire terms and conditions. My terms and conditions have been the same for about 3 to 4 years. My price has been the same for 3 to 4 years. So just please read it carefully just to avoid any misunderstandings. Okay. But everything is good. I hope you guys are feeling well. So first off, I want to address an important transit that just ended this morning. And the reason I want to address it is I want to show you guys, give you guys like a data point from which to understand maybe something. So as we were talking about previously, we've had a huge concentration in Capricorn, and now you see Pluto's alone in Capricorn. So Capricorns, Cancers, Geminis, you guys are going to be really enjoying this energy because it's been a cluster fire of energy in your chart. It's been a cluster fire for everyone, but particularly those signs it's been very intense for. So, hurrah, hurrah. The other reason that the energy is kind of decompressing now is the North Node is moved off of Algol Medusa. I still use the picture today because of what I'm going to tell you guys today, but it's more retroactive, so we understand what's going on. And so you can see here the final major activation point, the moon with the North Node this morning, was in line with what I've mentioned before about the moon with Medusa and the North Node once in an 18-year transit. But then even rarer when we consider Pluto at almost 28 degrees of Capricorn forming a trine to this position. What this means, and I've spoken in previous videos about this, so please check out my recent playlist. But basically this cluster fire of Capricorn energy and the subsequent conjunction with Mars and Venus just put a whole lot of pressure on everyone. And through that pressure, some truth started evolving and becoming self-apparent. A lot of things happened all at once. And what I actually think about that is that we will come to realize what the implications of these things are in the coming days, weeks, months, and years. So I don't think it's, one thing I notice is people being on social media and stuff, especially about political stuff, saying this, that, and the other. But I think that it's important to be very patient with this type of situation, because there's a lot of things we don't know yet. And there's a lot of things that will complicate that. What I know about this whole world situation is that it's complicated and it's full of lies, just full of lies. And part of the reason I've been quiet is I've been trying to understand it myself. And my position has, I've been learning a lot. So I hope you're learning as well. So for your personal life, how I would interpret that if I were you, or how I'm doing it for myself, is allow the energy to settle. The energy that was kicked up by all these transits in Capricorn may have felt like a cluster fire of energy. And suddenly things became more black and white. And suddenly things became more explicit, and hard conversations happened, or someone's actions became endemic of their underlying purpose. So their behavior was showing us so much. So make sure before you are talking to others or making your judgments, really try to take some time to listen and pay attention and reflect on the behavior of other people around you and what the implications are. Make sure that you know what you're talking about, and make sure that you know, you're not jumping to conclusions, right, from a lack of information. And that will help you in your personal life to make the best decisions with whatever's happened in your life with this energy. So it's very centering and very important for you to know. Be self-aware as much as you can. And like I said, be very careful with this energy. This is not like your aha moment in the sense that you write off on it and then you know exactly the rest of your life. This is like you're a student and you're getting very important lesson. If you read philosophy, or if you read some complicated book, a fiction book, let's say, even Dostoevsky, speaking of Eastern Europe, there's many books, Bulgakov, there's many writers who are, Joyce, if you want to talk about Western literature. When you read complicated literature or philosophy or something like that, you have to really sit with it to understand it. And this is the kind of energy that's too complicated to have a fast reaction to. Now, your fast reactions are also important. So if you're having an emotional reaction to what's going on, that's very important because it's honest, right? It's before it's been filtered. But I think that it's also just it's very important to be open-minded at this time, so that in your life, as whatever's going on, you can process it, think about it. You don't have to make a decision right away. And most likely, these energies that have been kicked up will have implication for the long haul. So this isn't stuff that's fast. And the reason that this is so forward-looking is because the North Node is with Medusa, and the moon illuminates the truth, right? The moon in the tarot, this is the Wheel of Fortune, but the moon in the tarot illuminates illusions. It points to the fact of where there are lies, where there are inconsistencies. It is the whispering moon. That's how I think of it, the whispering moon. I wish I had the card on hand, but you guys know what the card is like. So the whispering moon, here, I'll try to find it as I'm explaining it. But yeah, the whispering moon telling you secrets. So as it transited over the last day or so, right, last night on March 8th, first thing in the morning, over this position of Medusa, it started showing us things. And so it started illuminating how the Pluto North Node Medusa conjunction was functioning. So I gave some warnings on TikTok about that, saying, watch out for this date, watch out. But with astrology, it could be a variety of things, and some things definitely happen. So I want to tell you about that. So there's several things that happened with the transit of the moon and the North Node. The first thing is the United States has announced that they are going to move to regulate crypto. So there's going to be cryptocurrencies, Bitcoin, all of that stuff. So one of the big issues or topics in cryptocurrencies is regulations. How will governments interact with, here, I'll give you a crystal to look at as I look for the card. How governments will interact with, this new financial system that's evolving, this decentralized system. So the U.S. has finally moved to regulate that. And frankly, people who work in cryptocurrencies are somewhat on edge or feeling tenuous towards this, because governments do have a way of, setting up systems to favor themselves, honestly. So this regulation is a big deal. And that's, of course, also juxtaposed to the pressures on the dollar from this situation. See, I found the moon card for your inspiration. So it's kind of illuminating. Like, my cards are sort of lunar anyway. They're kind of here, there, everywhere. I made these cards, by the way. Piscean energy, probably a lot. But anyway, so they're sort of mystical anyway. But yeah, the moon illuminates, certain truths or hidden information. So this crypto thing is a big hush hush. Who stands where? What governments want to do? Big question marks. This came up with this lunar transit. The next thing that happened is in the days leading up to this, and this is with regard to Ukraine conflict. Now, I'm not going to keep on bringing up Ukraine conflict, but for a purpose of our discussion, it's necessary. So I think that Poland, where I'm from, is going to provide jets to Ukraine, which is a step beyond what NATO's been doing so far. Jets are like a higher grade of weapons. And so to me, that feels very kind of borderline, very, scary. There's been a lot of accusations or questions why the United States is not entering to defend Ukraine. And I realized what it was. It was because United States cannot jeopardize NATO members, specifically Poland, Lithuania, Latvia, Estonia, the Eastern members, who, if United States does anything like implement the no-fly zone, that means shooting down planes that are in Ukraine, that would be considered altercation, right? And so that could bring retaliation to those Eastern countries, and they could get hurt in some way. Let's not say how, but we all know what the potential is there. So that's been kind of brewing in later last week. And so I think that this is a part of this transit of this kind of network of support. Now, I'm not saying don't help Ukraine, but I think you have to think systematically, or you have to think about how one affects the other. United States cannot compromise NATO members for a non-NATO member. That would be very, very dangerous and would go against their agreements. So it's a very tough call. On the other hand, Poland, I'm not sure if Poland has chosen to give fighters to the Ukrainian army or how that works. I do know, and this is really harsh to say, and I'm not, trying to be too political, but Poland is essentially a puppet state of NATO, which means that when communism fell, Poland was in ruin financially and just basically ruin, mostly financial. And so their membership in things like the EU and NATO were given to them underneath very favorable terms for the Western countries. They were sort of the beggar in the room. the one with the less resources being picked up off the floor. And when that happens, then there are certain advantages that other countries receive when setting up these systems. So many of these Eastern countries, when they started joining NATO about 15 years ago, and the EU, ended up with terms that sort of in some way put them in danger, and they become a puppet. In other words, they have to appease the West in order to be a part of the organization. Anyway, so that's all I have to say about that, just to recognize that the energy leading up to this is providing Ukraine, a NATO nation, providing Ukraine with a higher grade of equipment, and that could be problematic in the sense of, is this actually a step beyond just providing humanitarian support, right? Okay, so I'm just trying to highlight for you guys the problematic nature of this, not trying to say if this is good or right, but it's a little bit lunar, right? It's full of mystery. It's full of kind of like, is Poland acting on its own volition, or is it a puppet of other powers in Western Europe, who don't want to act upon themselves? So I was going to talk about this later, but let's tie this in now. So Russia supports a huge amount of energy to Europe continually, even with this conflict. And Russia has now threatened, also with the North Node, threatened to cut off Europe. Europe is 40% dependent on Russian energy, and also beyond that, wheat. Food is grown in Ukraine and Russia. And Europe is much more dependent on Russia and Ukraine, but mostly on Russia for these types of exports. So we're talking about economic systems that are coupled. And so when there's a conflict like this, it hurts everyone a lot to separate, because this provides a lot of money for Russia, keeps it going as a country, as an economy, and so forth, even within the conflict. But then on the other hand, there is food that's necessary in Europe, as well as heating homes and energy. So you have this conflict of interest, and it's not about who's right and wrong at that point. It's really putting on the line the starvation of millions of people, versus it's just because of the coupled nature of the relationship, it just becomes very hard to figure out when there is a war going on. That's what I'm trying to say. So Russia's saying that they're willing to cut off Europe from these types of resources would be devastating to Europe, and extremely, it just would be very difficult. A nuance of this, one of the lunar aspects of this conflict, is pressures on each other's economy, right? Pressures on each other's economy to break them apart, to break them down. And so crypto is definitely like a anti-establishment sort of option. And so there's pressures on the American dollar. The sanctions have hit the ruble very hard, falling to 0.05% of a penny from I don't know, it's fallen to literally nothing. It's decimated the Russian economy. And so there is an aspect of this between two different systems trying to compete with each other and economically damage each other. I'm not saying who's right and wrong, but that's what's happening. And it's important to notice that Russia is now the most sanctioned country in the world, which means why is this conflict receiving so much backlash as opposed to other conflicts which are happening in the world? Some people say that that's a racial issue. I don't think so, not at this level. Although racism is an aspect of world politics as well. However, for that kind of backlash means that that Russia poses some fundamental threat to the people who are imposing the sanctions. So it's beyond, as sympathetic as I am to Ukrainian sovereignty, it's still those types of sanctions, that extreme of a measure, in my opinion, is pointing the fact that there's a bigger threat. There's a big threat to the dollar. There's a big threat to, how do I say this? Like the supply lines, the wheat, the energy. It's, a ton of complicated nuances. So when I saw this happen, and I'm not trying to be political, I'm just telling you the facts. I'm behind the people who are suffering 100%. I don't want them to hurt, but it's my personal philosophy that if we don't talk honestly about things, then they perpetuate and they get worse. And I believe this situation happened because we haven't been speaking honestly about what's going on, and these situations are getting worse. They're getting more widespread, more extreme, more violent, and I think we really need to have honest conversations. So I'm trying to be respectful and present the facts. I'm not reading the comments. I'll read them after, but that's where I'm coming from. So why is Russia such a threat? Why the level of sanctions? What is the threat, right? And we can justify that in many ways, but cutting off Europe from resources is massive. So the other thing that happened as the moon was with the North Node last night, Biden has now announced that they will not be importing Russian oil or fossil fuels. So that's huge. That is the big sanction that has been implemented. And so we're talking about the North Node, Medusa. We're looking at the heart of the problem. Also, for you personally, what is going on for you in your life? What is pointing to what relationship has been coming up? What kind of nuance about your life has been kind of getting flushed out? What is this complicated gridlock that you're under? Okay, so this sanction is the North Node with the moon illuminating the truth of what's going on. Oil now blocked by the US markets, and fossil fuels, right? So that is the North Node with Medusa. I have one more. So a lot's happened, and I want to show you guys how astrology works, in the sense that the North Node with the moon, this is the last time for 20 years, is showing us exactly what's wrong, and not saying, like, you want to think of it as a strategy between both complicit and problematic actors. You don't want to think about it that one is completely wrong. One is more wrong in a situation. That's my personal perspective. But you want to think of it as two problematic actors competing and understanding it from that perspective, because then you'll have a better worldview and really understand what's at play here. So we have crypto and its competition with the dollar, and governments increasing. Now the United States, the world's biggest economy, regulating it this week. The announcement came today. We have Biden announcing a block on oil and natural gas from Russia. This is the big sanction. This is the big one. And then Russia threatening to cut off Europe from their exports, which would be devastating to the European economy. Between oil and food is more important, the wheat. And then we have, in the precursor to this, Poland now saying that they're going to provide some kind of jets, some types of jets, some types of machines to help Ukraine, which touches upon that whole NATO issue. The last one that came up when I did a search for this is China has weighed in on this whole issue. And guess what they said? And this is literally at the same time. This is like secrets coming out into the open, right? And so China has now said that they want the US to disclose what kind of bioweapons they have in Ukraine because of global security. I found this on Al Jazeera if you want to look this up. Al Jazeera is actually really good for news. They're bringing up things very quickly. Anyway, and so China just today announced that they want the US to tell us what kind of development programs of bioweapon technology you have in the Ukraine. And Al Jazeera pointed out that this was the same argumentation that China has used against, in defense of, that's what they said when people were inquiring what happened with COVID-19. And I'm not trying to point fingers if you're Chinese. I'm not attacking you, but this is a geopolitical observation. So I've heard China use this situation in Ukraine to be quite critical of the United States and point out kind of this rhetoric of, you know, look at them, look at what they're doing, look at what they're doing wrong, instead of, they used it as a platform to criticize the U.S. In the onset of that situation. So anyway, so I thought that was very interesting because I do believe bioweapons are, you know, intense. So energy's moving off of Capricorn. And one thing to observe how you can see that in the world is that there's a 67 kilometer caravan or some kind of like caravan of armored vehicles trying to enter Kyiv. And it's been stalled for days, like 4 days. And to me, this is like the grinding halt of Capricorn energy as all the planets shift into Aquarius, which is much more legal. Its ruler, Saturn, is in Aquarius, much more legal, much more bureaucratic, much more soft power. And the grinding entry of Russia into Ukraine is ground down. That's a very Capricorn energy when I see that. So it's kind of like an overload of physical power, physical energy. And now it's stalled. I'm not saying this is a good outcome, like this will happen and it'll be great, but it is a good sign, in my opinion, astrologically speaking, that all these planets have now moved into Aquarius. And the grinding down and the slowing down of their progress. Pretty much everyone who knows about these types of tactics is saying that that's not something by design, but I don't know. I'm not a military expert. I know things about soft power, economics, and things like that. I know very much less. I just because I'm from Poland, when I was studying these kinds of things, the military side of things I was too young and it was too triggering for me to study. So I ended up studying more of the economic side of things, soft power. So that's what I want to say, you know, hopefully just to remind you, the North Node with Medusa, crypto, oil, U.S. oil, bans oil, Russia threatens to cut off Europe. That's Nord Stream 1, not Nord Stream 2. Germany cut off Nord Stream 2 already. Jets from Poland to Ukraine, and then Chinese accusations of bioweapons in Ukraine. Scary stuff, right? So why the intensity of sanctions? I'm not saying they're not justified, but I believe sanctions are justified in many different situations around the world where people are suffering. So what is the threat that Russia is bringing to the table that they can? What is the threat to the system, you know, that Russia is challenging? So, and I do think, just off the cuff, that crypto and money and the dollar and the ruble, this is economically a struggle for power. Throw the other guy off kilter, gain ground in terms of world economic power. So this goes beyond Ukraine. And I think that's why you're seeing a lot of hesitation in terms of how people are acting. And they're being slow in terms of governments, because this is a deciding moment. And I think this North Node with the moon showed us all of that. So I hope that you remember my 4 points. I put them on Twitter. I hope you remember this, write this down, because I think moving forward, the grinding energy of Capricorn energy is come to a halt. And now this is another phase of Aquarius energy. So Age of Aquarius. Age of Aquarius isn't here now, but now we're getting this foreshadow of what's coming. And what we don't finish up in the past, what we don't complete in the past, in some way shows up in our future. So it's very important for our generations to finish up and really tidy things up in terms of unfairness, injustice, inequality, or hypocrisy within our generations, because once the Age of Aquarius really starts, it's going to be wild. And once we add the complexity of cyber warfare, non-government organizations having as much power as governments, the shifting nature of world politics beyond the power of governments, that's what's coming, then it's going to be much harder to address those things. So, the things we're dealing with now will only magnify once we shift more into the Age of Aquarius, and we've been seeing that increase already. So that's my point about that we have to address this, not just for Ukraine, but for the whole world community, because these are some concerning things that are going on, this financial struggle for power and dominance, right, between competing interests. Okay, so that's what I wanted to say. The other thing that's happening this week, so that's, I am planning something else about this topic, but it's going to be much more edited. That's why I came in to do a live stream today, because it's March 8th and the North Node is with the moon. So I want you to be aware of that. I want you to also, it's still fresh, so maybe you're self-aware in terms of what's happened in your life. There should be some fundamental theme that's coming up in your life that you are either faced with or resolving or something like that. And this moon with the North Node hopefully gave you some kind of illumination to that. So be very aware of this energy. Very important, extremely rare, once in a lifetime energy, and it's just passed. So do your meditation, do your introspection, and identify what it is, and try to be as honest as you can about that, okay? So on Wednesday, we're going to get a little bit of a lift as Mercury enters into Pisces. This is a very, very nice energy that we're getting into right now, because the Saturnian dominated signs of Aquarius and Capricorn have been in power since December. And so those are very fact-based, detail energies. They're not very considerate of feelings and emotions. It's been very ruthless energy, right? It's been very fact-oriented. And it's, even though that's somewhat productive to working things out, once Mercury enters into Pisces, it will add a level of compassionate conversations, speaking from the heart, connecting with others. And yeah, somebody just reminded me it's Women's Day, so happy Women's Day. It is that very fluid and compassionate energy, so that's nice. On the 10th, so that's on Thursday, the sun will begin to form a square with the moon. So the moon will be in late Gemini by then. And so this is going to be our quarter moon before the full moon. So things are going to really amp up and come into their own. I suspect that the things that have already begun and have started are going to develop all the points that I talked about, but also in your personal life, things will come into maturation. You might feel some friction at that point on Thursday, because there will be some inconsistencies there. Because it's a quarter moon, but that passes within hours. So I'll put a note up on Twitter just to give you guys a heads up. Then this weekend is the last big transit of this week that I want to highlight for you today. And that is the sun with Neptune. And so sun will be with Neptune on Saturday, Sunday, and into Monday. And for me, this marks illumination. So illumination, and this is what we need: insight, the truth coming out, another layer of truth becoming apparent, and more truth coming to the surface about things. So I think I skipped over something because I put content out all over the place, but I did some research and I found that it's possible that Putin, the Russian president, he has his moon here. It's very likely, or at least his mother was having labor when the moon was exactly in Taurus. So he's known to be a Gemini moon, but I don't think so. I think that he was probably born when the moon was in Taurus by Medusa, and this is why Medusa is so integrated into these events. And that's why I'm hopeful that this moon in some way is going to find some level of solution or decompression, and that's why it's such a huge part of what's going on. I actually looked even deeper and I saw, the eclipse that I told you guys about in terms of the Medusa. The eclipse was happening at the time of his birth. So there's some kind of I'm not saying there's a reason for it, but in astrology, when you can see these kinds of intense concentrations and synchronicities, that's what points to that there's some truth, and it's saying there's a truth beneath this, there's a deeper level to this. And I'm not justifying his actions, I'm just saying that there is something that is being some underlying problem that's being shown here. And so it's very important for us to be aware of that and be self-aware when we're dealing with it. It's not just his problem. It's all of our problem. It's our collective problem, everybody's. And I think that this moon with the North Node and Medusa has been such a huge part of this. It's not because his moon is there that this is happening. There's like a cosmic order, and astrology is an archaic system. It's an old system that sort of points to some truth that is happening that science hasn't figured out how to measure yet. So that's why people shouldn't jump to conclusions and say A is B and C is D. This is an old system, but it's pointing to something that we as scientists are not looking at the world through, and it gives us meaning. That's the point. It gives us a deeper meaning, a deeper understanding, and that's how we can pinpoint things. These things matter. Moon, Medusa, North Node, last time in 18 years. Pluto concentration with in Capricorn with Venus, Mars once in 1,000 years transit. And then on the day the moon hits this point, we have announcements about crypto. We have announcements about U.S. banning Russian oil. That's huge. Russia threatening to cut off Europe. That's massive. We have China criticizing American weapons facilities, alleged weapons facilities in Ukraine. What's that about? And jets from a NATO country into Ukraine. What's going on there? Is Poland a puppet? Right? So hopefully this helps you to understand the significance, and whatever has happened in your life. Listen, honestly, the things in my life that have happened, they've been very nuanced. They have been very intense, but nothing bad has happened in my life. It was a series of conversations and relationships that I've been around for the last 2 weeks, or that have been really worked through. So it's not that something tragic happened in my life, but there was some fundamental shifts that I see happening when I look at it this way. So you should be looking for this too. What is changing? Appreciate it, understand it, and move forward with it. So there's definitely some kind of illumination. So sorry for the long chat, but it's an important topic. The moon has shown us there's going to be other minor transits moving forward, but not the intensity. The North Node has moved off of Medusa, as I said. Venus and Mars have now moved into Aquarius, away from this concentration. Venus has passed Mars. We're all now moving, but don't forget this moment. This is an important moment in the history of time, and it goes way beyond Ukraine and, of course, all my love to the Ukrainian people. I just feel that displacement of anybody is just such a crime, and just all the people that are suffering in the world, in whatever way they're suffering, we need to address those things very quickly. So I will read your guys' comments. It's hard to talk about politics and not make it political, so I'm sorry if I made anybody offended. I do want to note that I have not fixed the streaming problem. So I've noticed that it starts to go bad, whatever, about 90 minutes in. So I will be looking, but you guys just remind me as we do the reading. Okay, I just want to say something because it's a good comment. It's a choice to put economic advantage above global human rights. I think that you're misunderstanding the fact that economics is deeply integrated with human rights. It's not something you can remove. It's the backbone of how everything is working. So if we remove economics from the equation, then the human rights will just completely capitulate and everybody's going to suffer. So it's about being self-aware and wise in how that's being used. We can say in the West, oh, they're all wrong over there. All those billions of people over there, they're wrong, we're right, and feel good about ourselves. But there's an equal amount of people on the other side who want things for themselves as well. So we cannot say economically that we want a system that benefits us at the expense of others and not in some way expect them to respond, because that's a violation of human rights as well. So the two things I studied a lot is economics and human rights. So post-colonial theory, critical theory, those kinds of things. And so these things are very complicated. And I'm sure that many people out there would have solved it if there was a solution. It's a conflict of interests are always the ugliest types of conflicts. Just want to remind you guys. So conflicts of interest are the worst because very often they involve, conflicts of interest essentially always create losers in some respect, probably on both sides. Okay, so let's take a look at your messages. Okay, so first we have Capricorn. So Capricorns, like I said, so I want to see what this... The world is getting smaller. I heard someone say something interesting, just to segue into Capricorn, is that at this point in history, we have the highest population that probably will ever happen in world history. So there's a lot of scientists out there that are saying that the world population is going to decrease and that this is the height of it, that we're living through the highest concentration. Maybe that's what Capricorn stellium was about, the highest point of human history, right? Of the population. So I think that we're facing a very different I think we're entering a very different direction. And I think that the reason that I'm sharing that with you guys is I know a little bit about that. And so I think that mainstream media and the way that people are talking about this is irresponsible because it's perpetuating very biased beliefs that are actually creating the problems. Okay. I love you guys all. So yeah. So, very intense, very hard. And I'm sorry if I misspoke. It's obviously a difficult thing to talk about, right? Okay, so Capricorn. But yeah, the moon with the north node, this is it for 20 years. And in the next 20 years, Pluto won't be there. So it's not going to be the same nuance energy. Okay, so Capricorn energy, I want to give you guys basically I got political. I talked about the world, but this is in some way affecting you as well. And so this is affecting your interpretation. Something important is happening in your life in some fundamental way. And I think that I want to share with you, I want to take a look with you guys what that may be. Okay? Okay, so let's see the first message. We have the Two of Pentacles, and then we have the King of Cups, and then we have the Hanged Man. So Capricorn, the energy here is saying that there's some type of deliberation towards you. Somebody's deliberating towards you in some way. They've been, kind of in the air about a situation, but I think that there's going to be delays with regard to a relationship, with regard to you. Then we have the Death card, some kind of change. They could be facing someone's passing in their life, which has really changed their perspective. There's been definitely a shift in their reality with regard to situations. Five of Swords. It really seems as though some of you are struggling with someone who is going through a whole lot right now, and they're not able to provide for you certain feelings or affections or something like that because they're wrapped up in difficult moments themselves. So you are experiencing that as some kind of defeat. However, I feel that it's actually just a delay. That's the Hanged Man right there. So I don't think that it's a defeat or that you're, missed out or anything like that. I just feel like you're around someone who's heavily imbued with loss, suffering, and it's coming through in a weird way. They may be non-communicative, which means that you're not getting the answers that you want, but let me just tell you that it's because they're caught up in a lot of difficult feelings, okay? So that's something important for you to know about. By the way, when we look at Capricorn, I'm not going to show you guys the individual astrology today, but the North Node is in your 5th house of romance. So this is your relationships with other people. This could be relationships with your kids. So that's why it got so personal. Your relationship with someone else is experiencing that deep kind of experience. So we have the Leo next. Hi, Leos. Sun, Moon, and Rising. Let's see your energy for this North Node transit. We have the Three of Pentacles, and then we have the Chariot, which is the card of Cancer, the sign of Cancer. And then we have the Ace of Cups, Leo. Love at work. Is this possible for some of you? Love at work, happiness at work, achieving something you want at work. There's some type of progress, some kind of an overcoming. Then we have success, feelings of success. I feel as though this is a good time for you. And then we have the Five of Swords again. Let's see what the Five of Swords. I think that you have overcome. Look at this card. Okay, so we have the Page of Pentacles. It really feels as though you've overcome some type of opposition at work or your workplace, something to do with work, maybe your own feelings about work. So maybe you're finally come to terms with what you want or something about work, and you're getting quite excited, and there's a pretty strong sign that there's new financial opportunities up ahead for you. The shift into Aquarius is very good for the fire signs, especially for Leo. It's a very favorable, it's across the zodiac from you, so it's in your 7th house. A lot's happening for you in terms of relationships. The star is representative of the sign of Aquarius, so this may literally be an Aquarius in your life, but this can also represent the energy of Aquarius. Look out for new relationships, look out for new partnerships. A big obstacle is out of your way, and emotionally, I think that you have processed some difficult moment. You're over it, and you're feeling good. You're feeling confident. So that's for Leo. The next message is for Aquarius. Speaking of the devil, how are you guys? So Sun, Moon, Rising, Aquarius. Aquarius energy is very strong through Pisces season right now. Pisces energy is really strong. Aquarius is strong. You may have felt that increase since about a couple days ago, the 6th of March, when Venus and Mars entered into Aquarius. Some things in relationships may have changed for you, and that's positive. Then we have the 9 of Swords. This is Mars in Gemini. And then we have the Tower moment. Wow. So definitely a closure on something painful, an end to a situation that's painful. And there are some feelings that are hidden about this circumstance. There's definitely, how do I say this? Hold on. There are hidden feelings. There could have been a big, for some of you with this North Node Moon transit, there could have been some quick change in terms of your home or where you reside. There could be some hidden opinions still there in terms of your situation. But there is going to be a better offer coming out of that. There is going to be people who are going to offer you something that's benefic or positive. And I think that you will. This is my Aquarian card too. This is Pisces High Priestess energy. But Aquarians have great insight. So when you're faced with a lot of upheaval in your life, you have the ability to really put 2 and 2 together. It's more of a logical nature than Piscean energy, but it's definitely there as well. And then we have the Last Judgment. Listen, you're in a state of confusion regarding a matter, an upheaval around your house, possibly, or your family. There's still hidden things that you don't know. But I think very soon you're going to have some insight about that. And you're going to put 2 and 2 together, and then you're going to make some very good decision. There's good money coming to you through that. In other words, someone or something burned you. It caught you off guard. And there's definitely more, if you're wondering if there's other motivations behind it, yes, there's definitely other motivations behind it. But I think you're going to make a very wise decision, and it's going to lead to success. So there's betrayal here. By the way, the president of Ukraine, he's an Aquarius. I don't know if you guys know this, but I love Aquarians from Capricorn to Aquarius in that 20-degree cusp. And, you know, this is when I'm seeing this, the betrayal, that's, you know, what is he getting betrayed about? War is very, very messy. The things we're seeing are clearly, carefully, vetted. We only see very careful presented information. There's so much going on there. What is the lie? What is getting messed up? But this is the nice card that I see about this whole situation, be it his life or yours, that you're going to come to a conclusion. You're going to find some very definitive decision, and you're going to make that decision, and you're going to take your power back. It's almost like somebody's not giving you the information, so you're missing out on being able to make the right decision, and then you make your judgment. You put whatever you can together, and you make an assumption, and that's going to be a wise one. The reason I like Aquarians that are born on the cusp of Capricorn is that they're very sharp people. 19 through even the 25th, which I think is his birthday. His is a little bit more into Aquarius, but they're very sharp people. They're very smart. So you don't have to be born on that cusp for this energy, but it reminds me of them so much, like really seeing through the BS and seeing the truth in a situation. So good luck to all of you. Here is the next message. We have Libra next. So Libra's having a bit of a revival. Revival in the sense that some things that have put you under pressure, Libra, Sun, Moon, and Rising, have now dissipated. And the following year, this next year, as Pluto moves into Aquarius, you are going to have a bit of a renaissance, a bit of a rebirth. And so this is a very favorable transition period for you. Some Libras that are born on the cusp of Scorpio, they could be going through some intense times through this transition. So, it's 27 degrees. The last degrees of Libra can still feel like a bit of a crapshoot, but it's already better than it was last week. So I've been worried about Libras. I've felt that they were in a big cluster fire for quite a long time, and I feel that now a lot's alleviating, it's a lot smoother, a lot lighter, and the air energy in Aquarius right now is definitely favorable for your sign. So we have I don't know why I'm saying Aquarius. Maybe Aquarius is important for you. A cup is offered, and then we have decisions made. Cup is offered, decisions made. And then we have the Emperor. A big decision, taking power back, deliberation. Something helps you along the way to make a decision. Someone's helping you to put yourself in a better situation, Libra. And then we have the Page of Pentacles, beginning something new. Very similar energy to Aquarius, actually. Watch the last segment. Look at the same cards. And you guys see how I cut cards, just to be clear. Oh, shoot, I put her away. That's okay. Oh, there's your Aquarius, Libra. I cut cards very I know it's not a lot of shuffling, but it brings out, this is Moon in Aquarius, but it just brings out random cards. It's very random that way. But anyway, sorry, I put away the High Priestess, which was the last card. I don't know why I did that. But High Priestess, deeper understanding. I just feel as though it's very similar to Aquarius in the sense that you know what's going on, but your situation is much more informed by past experiences, which is the High Priestess. So, and also financial good outcomes. I'm not going to let you cross me anymore. I'm not going to let you undermine my life. I'm not going to let you get in my way, Libra. It's a very kind of, where Aquarius is more, watch their reading to understand what I'm referring to, but where theirs is much more about being cunning, yours is much more practical in nature. In other words, you understand the person that you're dealing with at this time, or you've had a series of experiences from which you draw your awareness. It's much less, Aquarius is much more psychic in this reading, and you're much more I know what this is going to lead to, so I'm going to make my decisions here. So there you go. That's you making your life choices. Okay, good luck, but it's going to lead to success. And if you know that they're a scoundrel, if for the last couple years you've become aware of their infamy or what they are, go with that energy. You know exactly what's going on. You do the math, Libra. Okay, then we have Taurus. So Taurus's energies, all the intense energies are coming up right away. This is so interesting in terms of the reading. Let's see your cards. So we have the Fool for Taurus. So Taurus is where the North Node is, where the Moon just exited. The Moon is exalted in Taurus, so if you have Taurus Moon, then that's for you. I looked up the astrology on Twitter. So interesting. But Biden, Putin, and Macron, who's the French president, have their moon in Taurus. All moons in Taurus, exalted moons. And like I said, if you look up Putin, it'll say 3 degrees of Gemini, but I've already explained why I think it's a Taurus moon elsewhere. So very likely it is. If anything, his mother was going through labor during that time. So Taurus is, you guys get a fresh beginning. I feel like for everybody, a message about Taurus is the North Node has hit this point of the Medusa, and now things will really evolve in terms of the North Node and Taurus energy. There's a huge energy of setting wrong things right. And when I brought up in the astrology, what's the threat from Russia, I was sort of alluding to that all of these intense measures that are being taken is people using a lot of their soft power, economic power, to try to right things right. So right with a W and then right. So trying to improve on the state of circumstances. So we all are up for massive financial changes, massive corrections, as they say in terms of the stock market. There's going to be huge changes because people are going to, that North Node in Taurus energy is going to change things around. And for you personally, what this means is now things will really get going. Fool, new beginning. Uranus is in Taurus. That's the ruler of the Fool card. 5 of Wands. You're still hesitant whether to begin something new, but then we have there's an emotional motivation that's a factor in this. So there's some type of emotional motivation that's telling you to go with something, but you question whether it's enough. You question whether this emotional motivation is sufficient and whether it's going to be helpful. Let's see the next message. We have the 4 of Swords. Rest. I really feel as though you have something in the works, Taurus. However, I feel like there's hesitation there and there's a real struggle. You don't know, you don't trust this love. Either it's from the past or it's from a distance away. You like it, you like them, but you don't trust that it's going to be enough. In other words, that it's going to be enough. Let's see the next message. We have the Ace of Swords communicating about it, talking about what's going on. And then we have a friendship and support. I think you're questioning someone, Taurus. We have the 4 of Pentacles. That's you being a little bit conservative, a little bit on the fence about things. I do feel as though you're being a little bit cautious towards someone else. You like them. 6 of Cups is the soulmate card. You like them, but I do feel as though you're tenuous or tentative. You're worried whether it's going to work out. You're worried whether it's going to be as strong as you think it would be. I think this requires a little bit of a gamble from you. There's a gamble involved here about something, and you don't want to risk it, or you're somewhat worried about risking it. And so for now, just rest. For now, just take your time. And I think what you're going to see is genuine friendship. So in these types of situations, the good friends, they will not push you to move fast. And if it doesn't work when you go slow, it's a sign that it wasn't meant to work in the first place. So I dare you to try the energy, to just go at it slow. If you're feeling the pressure or doubt, talk about it. Work it out. Figure it out. You don't need pressure in this situation. You do want to, work on being defensive. So be a little bit more open. But beyond that, I think that there's this person is a very nice person. But I don't think it's about whether or not they're nice. I think it's about whether or not, the relationship is strong enough or the situation is favorable enough for you to actually be able to, it's like moving to a new town and you have one friend there from college and you don't know whether or not you'll be friends. Well, they're a nice person, you know them, but, you don't know whether or not the friendship is strong enough or you're the same people enough to maintain that level of a relationship. So, it's just a bit of a question mark, which probably means you need to think about the situation more broadly, but that's what it's showing for now. Then we have Gemini, Sun, Moon, and Rising. Hey, Gemini. So like I said, this is in the intro in astrology, this is a very good energy for Gemini. The moon in Gemini the next couple days, the 8th, 9th, and into the 10th is going to be positive for you, and definitely a breath of fresh air in whatever circumstances you're dealing with. So yeah, just decompression. You might have felt like there's been a lot of unnecessary pressures, things you can't say. You may have felt trapped And so now this is the time when things are sort of finally in your situation from other people, like you're stuck. And yeah, just isolated. And somebody's going to reach out and it's going to become there's going to be a better resolution. And then we have the King of Pentacles, Virgo, Taurus, Capricorn, secondary transits in fire. And then we have the Nine of Wands. Wait for an answer, Gemini. Don't go slow. Someone imposed on you restrictions. And then we have this is Swords. I have to fix this card, but Six of Swords. And then on the bottom is the Ace. This person, very likely indirectly or directly imposed restrictions on you, Gemini, and you've now learned to let go and move on. But still the consequences of their actions are with you for some time, so you still have to work through them, but you already know what they're about and you know that they're not favorable for you in this capacity. I have a feeling that for some of you, this could be a sibling. So it may not be like, a romantic interest or so you may have to live in somehow contact with them. But whatever they've done, they've isolated you by their actions or what they've said. And now you slowly get to move away. You felt alone, but there's someone else coming to give you emotional support and be on your side. So, sometimes we step in mud. I say this a lot. Sometimes we step in mud. Sometimes we get stuck in quicksand. It's a part of being a human. It looks as though this is tied up, because it's King of Pentacles, Capricorn energy, probably points to the 8th house for you, which is that change, transformation, shared resources with family members that can get messy, and also pointing to 2019 and 2020. So whatever this is, it could be to do with that. So you just know, it just feels conceited, like the person's conceited, and you see, and you just decide to move on because you want a better life. And sometimes you have to wait before a person chooses to behave a certain way before you actually know what they're about. And there's a level of loneliness here or isolation, and then there's someone who's coming in. So there is a friend on the way. There is like someone with good intentions. Okay. Now let's take a look at the next sign, Virgos. Let's see what Virgos get. So Virgos were creating, especially Virgos born in September. So if you have placements 25 degrees to 30 degrees of Virgo, you were creating this thing called the Grand Trine that I talk about sometimes. And so this was very intense for people who were born in September. Not so much people like me who are in August in the Leo energy, but definitely people towards Libra a lot more. So it was creating this Grand Trine. So you might have gotten caught up in between a lot of things, and things may have felt very high pressure for a time. So you should be feeling better because of this now as well. So we have Death, which is the Scorpio energy. So some of you could be kind of caught up in something to do with a drastic change. I like Death and Four of Swords together. It just says, like rest and relax. And, after, like I said in the intro, it just felt like the last couple weeks energy felt very loud. Like everybody had an opinion. Everybody was screaming. The world was screaming. And maybe for you personally, but also for the collective. And so it's energetically has felt very intense. So maybe for you personally, some things have ended. But the Four of Swords is that tranquility and that rest. It's sitting in front of the ocean. It's hugging a tree. It's, going for a walk in the wilderness and feeling that decompression. It's also sleeping, literal sleep. So maybe some of you need sleep. So it's moving from a very loud place to a much quieter place. And then we have the Two of Cups. I have two Twos of Cups in this deck. So this is the more love-oriented one. So there's some kind of a love situation. Feelings are coming out to the surface. Virgo's transits right now are heavily on the love side of things. There is a lot of transits in the 5th house and the 7th house for Virgos right now. So there's a huge element of romance and love and just all things of the heart at this time. So look out, Virgo. And if you are going through something very intense, try to also look for love, because it is some really good energy out there. This is Sun in Virgo, the Eight of Pentacles. So that's your card if you have Sun in Virgo. Work changed, working hard, Three of Swords. A couple weeks ago, I said the Three of Swords is the ultimate heartbreak card, but it's the card that leads us to love as well. I don't know how I phrased it. I think I put it on Twitter, but the Three of Swords makes us aware of disappointment in our lives, but it also it brings us to love ultimately, because it motivates us to look for real love when we realize that the love we have is not love. And here's the other Two of Cups. Okay, so this is the more friendly one. If you can see it close, it has the Two of Cups written in reverse. We have the Hanged Man. It looks as though there's a bit of a delay in love. Excuse me for my voice. Hold on. There's a delay in love. In the meantime, it just feels like things are tapering for you, Virgo. It's been pretty intense. And now it's more of a friendship energy. I think that many of you have to focus on work because of some of the changes around work for you. But I think you're sort of staying away from someone or someone's energy. You're sort of pulled away, doing your own thing, stepping back a lot at this time. I think that a moment that you felt a lot of love towards a situation, for whatever reason, has slowed down. And the Hanged Man here is saying to me, Virgo, that this is a delay. It's not that the love is over. It's just there's some sort of fundamental change in terms of your social relationships, or your relationship, the person who has made you really question the situation that you're in, whether it's love or friendship or any degree of relationships. I think you've slowed down. It's taking a step back, and it's very likely many of you have used the excuse, I have to work, as justification for what's going on. So yeah, just don't feel pressure. But this is saying that there's delay. It's not an end. So maybe you need to work on your friendship more with this person rather than just on the emotional side of this. You have transits in the 5th and the 7th house. 5th house is romance, 7th house is partnership. So maybe it's time to work on the partnership side a bit more. Here is the next message. Sagittarius, how are you guys doing? Let's take a look at your energy. Sagittarius, what can I say? You've been coming up strong all year. Like there's a big bounce back that you're going through. And I don't feel like your energy's particularly intense at this time. So many transits in Aquarius may be beginning a lot of things for you at this time. So that's very nice, like new opportunities on the horizon, that kind of thing. So we have the Emperor, which is Aries energy. Let's see. It doesn't have to be Aries. It's just the Nine of Wands. Took a step back, Magician. Some of you have actually rebelled against a system in your life, whether it's your family, your husband, whatever. You may have taken a step back, but not a step back in the Virgo sense that I just read for. This is like directly challenging the person in charge or the people in charge. You know, saying, no, I'm not going to come to the family dinner. I'm just going to go do my own thing. You're meant to start something else on your own at this time. This does not mean that your family needs to go out the door or your partner needs to go out the door. But I do think that right now, whatever they're demanding of you, whatever they want from you, it's second priority to what you need to do for yourself. Here is the next message. We have the Seven of Pentacles. They want you to invest long-term into something and to commit into something that I think you're hesitant towards. Let's see. Then we have, and I think that you don't like the pressure from them, honestly. I think that somebody's applying pressure to you to cave to them. They're using relationships in order as a poker chip. The Six of Cups is the Sun in Scorpio, but it also represents soulmate energy. This does not mean that Scorpio is your soulmate. It just means that it could mean somebody who has Sun in Scorpio, or it could mean that there is love for you in another direction. This appears to me as though someone is putting, or you feel that someone is putting undue pressure on you, and they're asking for you a lot based on the nature of your relationship. I'm your father, do this for me. I'm your husband, do this for me. I'm your boss, do this for me. And I don't think you feel super comfortable. I think there's an element of commitment into what they're demanding. And I think you're the sign of freedom. You're really the sign of freedom. So demands, pressure, peer pressure on you to conform, you don't like that. No, thank you. You commit and you give out of your own volition, but demands and ultimatums, any of that energy, that's not what you want. So I think part of the nuance here is that there's a relationship that's being bargained over, which means that because they're close to you, they're putting pressure through the nature of your relationship to conform to their will. And walking away from that feels lonely or isolating. But this is saying you're going to find love in other people that you know, or maybe new people, that the love is there. So I don't like this energy either around you. I feel like you're this Nine of Wands where you're defensive and you're just like, I don't know how I feel about this. And like, I can just sense that someone's implicitly or explicitly giving you an ultimatum and trying to make you decide. And they're using your relationship as a bargaining chip. And that's really sad. And so I think that you need to branch out. The Magician, I use this for Virgo and Gemini because it's ruled by Mercury, but this could also be your card very easily. So you're starting something new, break away, go after what you want. The people will be there. Maybe this is to do with work. Maybe somebody's applying pressure on you to stay at a job you don't want to stay in, or trying to bully you in some way. So you just take care of yourself, and there will be people there when you go there. Here is the next message. We have Aries. Hi, Aries. So how does it feel to have gone through such a huge transit in terms of your career? Because that's what it's been, right? So today's transit had something to do with money for you, possibly. You may have felt some degree of worry financially leading up to this, or financial pressures. You are going through a transition, but I don't think that this is going to capitulate your financial circumstances, or things are not going to work out. I just think that the high intensity of Capricorn energy in your 10th house is now coming to an end. There still will be a few, like December, and then when Pluto moves greater into 29th degree of Capricorn next year. But overall, the intensity of 2019, 2020, and now you get to step away from. So I hope you've taken my advice if you've been watching and really worked hard and got yourself to where you needed to be. And I'm a Virgo. You know, Virgos are known for being perfectionists. That's funny. But essentially, don't think that if you haven't gotten to where you wanted to be, you didn't make it. Whatever energetically, just the fact that you tried has pushed you along in the direction you need to be, and you need to be very patient with the consequences. Life has a funny way of working out for us, you know, where we end up and how things go. And I think that the main step is sincerity. So if you've been sincerely working really hard and trying to improve your life, I really feel like the last couple of years have set you on a trajectory that's going to lead to good things. So first of all, Ace of Pentacles, new opportunities for work. Maybe some of you are seeing some changes at work, some different directions. Maybe actually you're turning to a job that has less pressure in it. It doesn't mean less money, but just less pressure, less intensity. I just feel like it must have been so intense for you since 2019. Then we have your card, the Emperor, Aries. Your partner, if you're partnered up, could be looking for a new job or setting up a new job. And then we have the Devil, which is Capricorn. So that's your 10th house right there, Aries. Be careful of false starts at this time because you're in a transition. It could still feel like it was the last 3 years. So if somebody's offering you some kind of big offer, make sure that you are aware of the back end of the implications of what they're offering. There could be a lot. Devils do this in transition energy. So the devil energy gets co-opted into things and sort of makes it seem like one way where it's another. So be very careful at this time. In other words, I'm telling you to slow down. Now is the time to slow down. Now is the time to go slow. Then we have the King of Cups. You'll still find success. I'm really wanting to reassure you this. There is a very good offer from someone who's very genuine. Then we have the Three of Swords. And I just told Virgo this about this card. This card is the card of love, and it's card of heartbreak, because it's through heartbreak that we find love. And of course, then there's regular heartbreak when we realize the love we've had is not that good. So, you know, love is actually, the Three of Swords is actually a love card. It's just it's the difficult side of trying to find the right situation. And then we have the Eight of Swords. I'll be honest, I think that you have someone around you with really good intentions, but I have a feeling that there's problems there. Either it's not a perfect match, or there's some other kind of disconnection. There is some underlying problem that is going on that you need to figure out. I think you need to Death card change. Yeah, there's definitely Aries. I think that you need to go slow and assess your situation. I think that success is yours, but I don't think you should feel overwhelmed or intimidated by what's happening now. I think you're in a transition and you've gone so far up. Your energy has built up so much that now it needs to work its way down to earth again. And so allow it to. Don't try to force your issue to make it to continue going in the way you've been going before. Embrace the new direction and embrace the new path. And then go slow with other people's feelings at this time also. Very, very slow with other people's feelings. Things will become clear later, but I think that there's a lot of changes around you at this time that you want to be careful of. To avoid like problems as you're transitioning, as you're changing certain directions. And this does have to do with father, work, or husband energy. So all those energies are implied here. And the Eight of Swords is always like a temporary problem. All she needs to do is take those that blind off and untie her bandages or whatever ropes that are binding her. There's a way through the problem. And in the traditional card, which you can see kind of in the corner, is a little castle in the corner there, right there, right there it is. And so there is a destination for her, and there's a destination for you. So, you know, just be patient with that. And if there's a problem in front of you right now, just figure it out, because you'll get there. You'll definitely get there. Okay, it's because of the transition, like I'm saying. Okay. Then we have Scorpio. Hey Scorpio, Sun, Moon, and Rising South Node Scorpio in the first house for Scorpios. That's intense. There's a lot of introspection. This is really at the heart of some problems. Really getting at the root of issues, answering big questions. Big theme for you right now. And when this transit is over in June 2023 or July 23, you're going to feel so much better. And so I think that you're going through a cathartic period in your life, and you're coming to terms with a lot of different things. And that's really good. It's a high time for growth for Scorpios. And a lot of like how do you say this, like healing of things that have been broken or difficult to address. A love situation is causing delays. A heartbreak about love is causing delays. Let's see the next message. But there's success financially and new directions forward. You might have a friend around with whom you're very practically minded together. They may be an earth sign, a Virgo, Taurus, Capricorn, and you're heading in some direction. Then we have the Knight of, two friends together moving towards something and away from the heartache, the loss, the brokenheartedness, the disappointment of past situations. Then we have the Death card, which is Scorpio energy. That's you, whether you're a sun, moon, or rising. Definitely you have a companion with whom you're moving past difficult situations you've been through in the recent past. And they're giving you a lot of personal strength. So you have a good friend and a good ally towards going towards new things, definitely financial. Ten of Swords. So it really seems that some of you have gone through a significant breakup, and this isn't true for everyone, so it might be somebody's friendship or something else, but there's a separation here from something, a relationship that's valuable, and now you have a friend with you with whom you're going in a different direction, and you're going towards directions of financial success, new beginnings, new financial beginnings, and so forth. This person's helping to lift you up after a sizable loss, and possibly it's almost like closure, the final closure of a situation. There's no question about it not being the right circumstance anymore, right? And that's a harsh position to be in because there's no sugarcoating it anymore. Then we have Cancer. Hi, Cancers. I'm happy for Cancers. I'm glad your energy came up here. Definitely an energy of decompression, which means that it's less stressful than it's been. And it's probably been pretty intense for your sign. Look at this. I'm shuffling the face up. Let me know if you're superstitious about shuffling face up and what you think about that in the comments. Okay, so let's see this energy. Let's see this energy. We have the Four of Swords, rest. Exactly. So what we saw in the chart for you is that Capricorn, which is your 7th house of partnership, got totally loaded with planets. There was Pluto, there was Venus and Mars, there was Vesta also. So it's been quite a lot in your 7th house for a long time. And now finally on March 6th, Venus and Mars moved into your 8th house. And so you have less pressure on your 7th house. This is such a huge transit for you. And the next couple years are going to be very good because there's going to be so much less pressure. What that means is, relationships with other people may have been tough. You may have been confronted with difficult nuances. You may have had very bully-like energy around you, like bullies as partnerships or relationships of some kind. Then we have the Strength card, which is your energy here. Let's see. Then we have the Three of Swords. I think that some of you guys have gone through cyclical disappointment in terms of relationships with someone. So when someone's consistently disappointing you and then you just give them a second chance, but then ultimately it's the same all over again. So you have a consistently disappointing relationship with someone and it kind of makes you sad. But I think that each time that those things happen, people also tend to wake up in their feelings and they tend to feel, better in their feelings, or not better in their feelings, but more depersonalized and more independent. So I think that there's definitely more independence that you're feeling now. And if that person is still in your life in some way, you're probably at this point rebuffing whatever they're doing. It's it's another time that Charlie did this. It's another time that this happened. It's you have that strength that's worked up. Still, I think you need to rest. Then we have the Ace of Pentacles, go a different direction. The 7th house is also business. So you may have for a while now, I'm saying even 10 years, have found yourself in abusive like situations at work. So this is saying like, go for this new direction. Remember what I said in the last part of the astrology. The sun will be with Neptune this weekend. This will clarify, another layer of clarification, illumination. You know, Neptune is illusion. So when the sun joins Neptune, we understand our circumstances so much better. So there is a lot of like aha moments. What I was saying in astrology was, don't jump to conclusions about things as a general statement at this time, but you will have a lot of epiphanies. You will have a lot of moments where you're like, oh, this is so interesting, or that are going to hit home for you in some way. Then we have the Queen of Wands, Sag, Leo, or Aries. Let's see. Maybe support from a friend. Again, a lot of people are getting this. Maybe that's the Pisces energy. Support from a friend, Strength card, Queen of Wands, Two of Cups. Someone giving you away, dusting yourself and moving on again. On the bottom, we have the Two of Swords. Listen, if you're waiting for closure with regard to a relationship right now, that's that Pluto energy. I would say don't bother. I think that maybe at some point in your life down the road you will become aware, but I think that sometimes people have power over us by withholding information, and many people who are abusive do this as a manipulation tactic. So, or maybe some people even inadvertently do this subconsciously. So I'm not saying it's only abuse, but whatever situation, if you're in a situation right now where there's a lack of information that's being controlled by someone else, and you just want the answer, or you just want it figured out, I think that you need to move on, because there's new things for you. You have a friend to help you through it. This is the waves are parting for you to cross, so you need to carry on or move on at this time. Okay, so let's see the next sign. I like how this reading went. Last but not least is Pisces. Happy Pisces season. Happy birthday, you guys. Didn't you guys go last in my last reading too? Something like that. So you have this beautiful connection between your modern ruler, Neptune, and Sun on the 12th, 13th, and 14th of March. Excuse me, my throat. I just didn't drink enough, and so the last sign, it's hard to talk. And I got very, very kind of impassioned through the astrology. Okay, so let's take a look at your cards. So we have the Nine of Swords. That's Mars in Gemini right there. A lot of people got this actually today. Page of Pentacles. Somebody got an opportunity, and it's hard to... Somebody got a financial opportunity and it's hurtful to you. Or maybe if you are... someone got help. Let me rephrase this. So someone got some kind of financial opportunity, and it's hurtful to the other person that person got a financial opportunity. There's a level of injustice, and if it's not unjust, then it points to like a greater injustice, like because of a certain protected characteristic, that person didn't get it, or one person got it because of like some kind of uncontrollable factor. So something unfair happened, and one person, and I feel as though it's two friends. So I don't think that there's hostility within the friendship. I just think that there's an unfair balance that's hurting one person, and one person is starting in a good direction towards success. So yeah, just be very mindful. There's a very sensitive situation around you at this time, Pisces. So if you're the person who's suffering, who's saddened by the fact that someone else is getting a break and you're not, that's sad. But if you're the person who's been successful and has found some kind of material success, then be mindful of the person who's suffering. So yeah, their time will come. Whoever this is, whether it's you or the other person, their time will come. There's also an energy here, and sorry if this is you, the Nine of Swords, but this is almost saying that the person who's found success is supposed to like go and do that, because I think that because the other person will find their success on their own time. This is actually, in my opinion, showing some kind of friction within a friendship or a relationship. So it's not saying go break up, but it sounds like one person's down on their luck and one person's happy. And the person who's happy is supposed to go pursue that happiness, and that person's time will come. And then we have the Ace of Swords. Yeah, they'll want to talk about it. It's a difficult situation when one person's thriving and one person's struggling. And then we have the Hierophant, Taurus energy, community and friendship. That's how you're tied together. And then we have the Ace of Wands, new beginnings. You know, life has its ups and downs, and the older you get, the more that you know, and especially with your friends and stuff. You know, there's times when you're thriving and then they're down, or you're down and then they're up. It just goes back and forth. So it's a test of a good friendship to live through ups and downs. This can mean that somebody needs to change their environment, particularly their religious environment. So if they are, you know, religious in some way, their religion could be holding them back. We have two aces. They have to change something. Nothing you can do to help that. Then we have the Seven of Wands. Yeah, it's just saying very clearly, like, it's not an undermining the friendship to go pursue the things that are going well and the new beginnings. And I think that person will, they need to fundamentally change something about their social environment for their career change to happen. And it is going to happen. It's just a matter of when. So both of you need to protect yourselves. This really feels like, you know, two friends feeling bad about an uncomfortable situation. Anyway, I hope you guys liked this reading. I had fun doing it for you guys. Welcome to the new member. Thank you for becoming a member. I'll be back with more member readings soon. And yeah, thanks for everything, you guys. I'll be back right away. And make sure to do your introspection at this time. Make sure to really think about, like, you know, what you're aware of in your life, because this is going to be one of those moments when you can really, like, hit some kind of big self-awareness. The light is going off, and you know, you become aware of some important stuff. Okay, so thank you so much for being here, and I'll talk to you guys soon. I'll read your guys' comments later, and yeah, let's see you soon. Take care. Bye.